were efforts by the governor's office and others to roll back some of the provisions from the 2019 reform bill.
Here in New York, yes.
Here in New York. Mm-hmm. You worked against that.
Yes.
You worked against that because of all of the reasons you just outlined.
Yes.
What do you think? I mean, I have my own views on this, but I'm interviewing you. What do you think the motivation was, knowing the actual statistics and the impact? Why were they pushing for changes?
Well, I understand, you know, when the news is what the news is, and then you and then you go out as a politician in that environment, and you're trying to win an election, and people are scared, and people were legitimately scared, especially during the pandemic. All kinds of, you know, crazy things were happening. You had folks who were having mental health crises, kids who weren't going to school, the murder rate was going up, all these things were happening. And so people were legitimately afraid during that time. And politicians want to be seen to be doing something about it. And so they, a lot of times, are kind of pushed into a tough on crime position when I believe they should be continuing to stay smart on crime, which oftentimes is a little counterintuitive to what the traditional tough on crime positions are. A lot of times people think putting more people in jail and prison will make us safer, but we've shown that more pretrial freedom actually makes us safer. And so it's hard for politicians to sell that to the public. I understand that. I understand that it's easier for them to sell, put more people in jail, put more people in prison. It's going to make us safer. We're going to protect you from the bad guys. But what we've realized is that we can be smart on crime, we can be more humane, and we can decarcerate at the same time.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about another Trump deranged, highly weird, liberal weirdo, John Legend, who is having a meltdown on MSNBC about Trump being a racist, okay? Pretty par for the core type of stuff when it comes to the left, right? Nothing unusual here, okay? But I'm reacting to this because John Legend is on MSNBC advocating for cities and states to be softer on crime. Now, we know that crime is out of control in these liberal cities, despite the narrative coming from these cities and the Democrats that crime is not out of control and crime is going down. Do not listen to these people. They are lying to you. They're gaslighting you. Just like they gaslight you on every other topic, okay? Like, for example, when it comes to the economy. You remember when they told us that Biden's recession wasn't actually really a recession, even though we had 2 consecutive quarters of declining GDP growth, which by definition is a recession. They said, no, that's not really a recession, okay? You remember when they told us that inflation was transitory, right? That it was temporary, that it would go away. Oh, it turns out that wasn't true, okay? Remember when they told us that the border was secure, the border's not open? Turns out that wasn't true. Now, when you look at crime, right, you have situations like, for example, in New York City, where the Democrats would say, hey, well, according to our statistics, crime is going down, but yet they're putting the National Guard in the subway. Okay, how does that work? If crime is going down and it's all a conspiracy theory, why are you putting the National Guard in the subway? Why is it that all the polls show that people don't feel safe? They don't feel like crime is actually going down. Why is it that you have these stories where you have police being so underfunded because of the defund the police movement, where police can't even show up to the scene of a crime because they just don't have the manpower, which means that the crime doesn't get reported, right? So who am I to believe these made up crime statistics that show that, oh, crime is declining, when a lot of the crimes aren't even being recorded? Okay, a lot of the arrests aren't being documented, okay? They're just playing catch and release with criminals. So again, you have John Legend here, who is literally advocating for chaos and destruction. He's advocating for progressive criminal justice reform. And he's trying to engage in the gaslighting word games that Democrats love to engage in by basically referring to bail reform as pretrial freedom, right? This is what they're calling bail reform now. So I want you guys to understand, when they come out here and they start talking about pushing bail reform, being soft on crime, then they're calling it pretrial freedom, right? That's what they're calling it. It's similar to what they're doing with the homeless problem, right? They don't call homeless people homeless anymore. They call them unhoused, right? The left love these word games and these tricks, okay? So with that being said, I want to react to this interview between him and Jim Psaki, who is going to ask John Legend about Trump and what Trump has done when it comes to criminal justice reform, because Trump threw black people a bone, right, during his presidency. He said, okay, I'll do the First Step Act, okay, which is to have some non-violent drug offenders sentences reduced or released from federal prison. He also helped to fix and alleviate the so-called crack cocaine disparity. You know, the disparity that the woke revolutionaries complain about all the time is an example of systemic racism. Okay, how the sentences for possessing crack were much harsher than possessing cocaine, which is supposed to be the white man's drug, right? The black man's drug, crack. They sentence you more for that than they do the white man's drug. Okay, so again, Trump threw the woke revolutionaries a bone with the First Step Act, okay, in the sense that he did enact some things that I agree with, in the sense that, yeah, I don't think that drug users, non-violent drug users, should be in a cage, okay? I don't think they should be thrown in prison. I think that they should get help, right? But again, if you move in major weight, then that's a little bit different, right? That's a little bit of a different story. I'm just saying, regardless, these people are so unappreciative of the fact that, unlike Democrats, Trump is actually willing to listen, okay? He's willing to work with you if you are reasonable, right? But what do they give Trump in return for that? Well, we're about to find out, right? We're about to find out what they give Trump in return for that. Let's roll the clip.
Are very politically savvy. And one of the things that you hear from Trump's supporters is that he signed the First Step Act in 2018. He's a partner in this effort. Now, since then, he's obviously been doing a lot of criming, but in addition to that, he's also suggested that members of the African American community should support him because he has a mugshot. I mean, he makes these offensive statements. But what do you say to people who say, "Oh no, he would be an ally. Look what he did in 2018."
Well, listen, I hope Trump's not an ally to being soft on crime, okay? I mean, the First Step Act was a bipartisan thing in the sense that it was like, okay, well, we can all agree that there's some things that we shouldn't be throwing people in cages for, right? We all agree on that. Let's actually try to fix those things. But what we don't want to do is do what these liberal cities and states are doing, which is taking people who are violent, who do commit violent crimes, and just playing catch and release, right? Being soft on them and not locking them up or anything. Like I've said before, and I'll say it again. We definitely need to expand mass incarceration, right? We need more mass incarceration of these violent criminals who are continuing to commit these crimes, right? That's how you solve the problem. I'm so serious, right? And some people may find that to be controversial. I don't care what people think, right? All I know is that we need more law and order in this country when it comes to real criminals. It seems like the only people that the left is interested in going after when it comes to crimes is their political opponents, right? That's the only people they're interested in. But the actual real violent criminals, the real criminals, they have no interest in going after those people at all. In fact, they have all the interest in the world in trying to protect those individuals and to cater to them, right? That's what they're doing. And it's really despicable. That's why these liberal cities are out of control.
He's not been an ally. I mean, I think the First Step Act was fine. It was a very kind of small reform. And to be honest, most of the reform we need is on the local and state level because most incarceration is local and state. And most of the laws that end up being criminally enforced are local and state laws. So very little impact can happen on the federal level. So I don't actually rely on presidents and the legislature in Washington when it comes to this issue very much. I care a lot about what they do on a lot of other things, but on this particular issue, it's really just not that significant, the amount that they can affect on the national level. That being said, at the same time, you know, he's claiming credit for those small things. He's also saying, you know, if people are stealing something, they should get shot in the middle of the store. When we protested the killing of George Floyd, he was advocating for the military to shoot us in the streets. He's made it clear throughout his life that he believes black people are inferior. Like he believes that to his core, in his bones. He wouldn't let us live in his buildings back in the day. But also, when you hear some of the stray comments he makes, he clearly believes in a genetic hierarchy of humanity and is racially determined. So he is a tried and true, like dyed in the wool racist. Like in the core of his being, he's a racist.
Flashback. You know that, right? He's a terrific guy. We love him, and I'm here for him. And the snow came, and I said, gee, nobody's going to show up. And look at this place. It's packed. Well, I'll just say a few words. I mean, Wall Street and New York City and this whole region is doing unbelievably well. I'm building a job on the West Side, which is the largest job ever approved by the New York City Planning Commission. You see it going up along the West Side Highway. It's almost 10 million square feet. It's 18 buildings, and it's really going to be something. I will tell you, a large percentage of the people, and especially in construction, that are building these great jobs are black and minorities, and I'm very proud of it. We have close to 25%, and I think the number's going up, and they do a great job. There are no better builders than we have in New York, and a big percentage of that is black and minority folks. So I just want to thank everybody in the room for being here. I look forward to some questions, and then I don't know how we're ever going to leave this building today, because if you look outside, it is terrible, but we'll figure a way. There's always a way, and thank you, Jesse, and congratulations.
And with all of that wealth, Trump wants a free ticket to the fair tonight.
So I don't want to hear what he has to say about what he's done for black people. He's done very little for us. And he is, at his core, truly a racist. And you even hear what he says about immigration and which countries he wants people to come in from. They all are very white.
That is true. That's something pretty universal about them. So I know you were active on the campaign trail in 2020. You have a lot on your plate. Are you going to be out there campaigning for Joe Biden this fall?
Yeah, we'll get out there probably later in the year as it gets close to people making decisions about when it's time to vote. I think the choice is very clear. There's a lot been said about age and all these other things. Both of them are old. But one of them is a really decent man who's done a lot to improve lives in this country, and that's Joe Biden. That's who I'm going to be voting for, and I'll be out there supporting him.
Now, for you, because you're pretty, again, savvy, would you ever run for office?
I wouldn't.
Now, notice how the follow-up question is not, well, what has Joe Biden done for black people, right? Since that's your main concern, right? What has Joe Biden done for black people, okay? Now, again, me personally, I don't think that the George Floyd Policing Act that the Democrats want to pass actually does anything for black people. But it's not like Joe Biden's out here pushing it anymore, right? He's not doing that. Joe Biden's economy has been terrible for everybody, including black folks. But again, what really blows my mind is how this guy thinks that, well, Trump is some racist, right? Some flaming racist, even though that's not true. Clearly it's not true. But yet he ignores the fact that Kamala Harris, Joe Biden's vice president, accused Joe Biden of being a racist, of supporting segregation. He was against busing, right? He wanted to end federal funding for busing because he thought that it would create racial jungles, right? He didn't want white kids going to schools that would be racial jungles. That's what this man said. He also gave a eulogy to a Klansman, right? So this guy is literally friends with Klansmen, palling around with them, creating legislation with segregationists. But yet, this guy, John Legend, is talking about Trump. Trump is the overt racist, and he's going to support Biden, who, again, gave a eulogy for a Klansman. Wow, incredible stuff. This is why I can't take these guys seriously. And this guy is supposed to be such an advocate for woke criminal justice reform, right? But yet, who's responsible for all of the black people being locked up that these people complain about so much? Joe Biden. Joe Biden was responsible for the drug bill of the 80s and the crime bill of the 90s. Joe Biden was responsible for all that legislation. So you out here supporting a guy that quite literally is responsible for everything that you are supposed to be against today. Again, it's amazing how that works. This is why I can't take these people seriously. This is why I can't take them seriously. This is just peak Trump derangement backed up by no facts, okay, no real logic. And again, if this guy was consistent, he would say, well, I might not necessarily like Trump, but I can't support Biden for all the things that he did. Even though I disagree with John Legend, right? Even though I think personally, for as much as we rag on Biden about the crime bill was necessary, right? At the time, the 90s, crime was out of control, okay? It was crazy, okay? And the black legislators in Congress, they're the ones that wanted it, right? They're the ones that were like, yo, our neighborhood's out of control. We need to get tough on crime. And the politicians decided to do so. And guess what? It worked, right? It worked. Cracking down on crime is what led to liberal cities like New York City having economic prosperity. This is why I'm one of these people that feel nothing when people talk about how, oh, the United States has more prisoners than anywhere else in the world. Well, we also, again, have the largest economy of anywhere else in the world. I personally think that locking up criminals goes hand in hand with having a good economy. Businesses being able to operate, people being able to live safely and to have faith in the fact that, hey, I'm going to be able to do business and it's going to be legitimate, and that criminals are not going to disrupt my way of life, that people are going to be able to safely go to work. These things are essential to having a good economy, right? El Salvador is finding that out. They're finding it out right now. They locked up all the criminals, and guess what? The economy's doing great, okay? They have companies that are moving into their country, now operating in their country because they're like, oh, it's safe to be here. Isn't it amazing how that works? It's almost like magic. So again, these people, these agents of chaos like John Legend, they're not serious people, man. They're not serious people. He's advocating to let criminals loose on the streets to terrorize people who are too poor to have security like him, too poor to live in nice neighborhoods where they can hire their own police, or they can get a priority when it comes to police protection or police phone calls, right? 911 calls out to their neighborhoods. He doesn't really suffer from it. The people that suffer from it are the people that are at the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder, that are looking to try to climb up, to try to get a good job, to have stable and gainful employment, but it's hard for them to do so because their neighborhoods are crime ridden. So now all the businesses are moving out and people are losing their jobs as a result. So again, don't let these people gaslight you on mass incarceration because it sounds bad and all. No. You got to understand, we're a country of law and order. That is a part of what makes me a conservative, right? I believe in order, okay? That's like a fundamental core part of being a conservative. You have to believe in order, right? You have to believe in hierarchy. You have to believe in the rule of law. So, hey, these people, they always go on television, talk about Trump racist. Sometimes I think to myself, Trump shouldn't even try, right? Trump should just be like, you know what? I'm tired of dealing with you guys. I honestly would not blame him, right? I would not blame Trump if he just stopped trying to get the black vote, because these people are so ungrateful. Trump didn't have to sign that bill. Trump didn't have to give HBCUs money. Trump did not have to do opportunity zones. Trump didn't have to do any of these things. But Trump did it anyways, because he was trying to help. He was trying to say, hey, I'm somebody that you can work with. Let's actually get something done. Democrats, they promise you a whole bunch of stuff and they never work with you. Ask Ice Cube, right? Ask Ice Cube how effective he's been working with Democrats. They didn't want to talk to this guy until after the election was done, right? And even then, they was like, nah, we don't really want to talk to you. We don't care. We already won. Again, it's amazing how that works. It really is. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.